Restrepo in motion. Ward on the roll, in trouble, chased by Lawrence, able to get around him. Looking downfield, he'll throw over the middle.
Tighten up.
It's Restrepo.
Let's get it, Chad. Tighten up, Chad. Stop playing, Chad. Tighten up, man.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast, presented by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. Solo pod today, recapping one of the worst Titans games of this season. They fall to the Jacksonville Jaguars in a completely uncompetitive matchup there. And Justin Melo, congratulations to him, is the godfather at a baptism today for his godchild. So he will not be joining me. It's just me here to recap a 25-3 Titans loss. Another loss at home. They are now 1-11 on the season, and it was a bad day for this team overall. Start with Cam Ward, 24 of 38 for just 141 yards. That is an average of 3.7 yards per attempt. No touchdowns, no turnovers, although he did fumble one time. The Titans were able to jump on it. Also took 3 sacks. Pretty pathetic game. Xavier Restrepo looked like he broke his ankle there at the end of the game, making a catch over the middle. And it's just pretty ugly overall. I don't even know what else to say. This team is absolutely atrocious on all levels. Mike McCoy continues to be as cowardly as it gets. Yet another game where the commentators are wondering, why won't the Titans just go for it? What do they have to lose here? I will say the Titans opened the game nice with a good opening drive, get all the way down the field, end up with a 4th and 3, and decide to kick the field goal, and that was the first of many cowardly decisions by Mike McCoy. I'm going to get to the chat here because, honestly, I just want to hear from you guys. There's not a lot to talk about from this game that was good. I don't think Cam Ward played particularly well. I don't think he was seeing the field particularly well. Didn't identify a blitz one time. It could have been on him, could have been on somebody in pass protection to pick up, but took a sack. I think there might have been an illegal contact on that sack, so it didn't even matter. But just little things like that where I felt like Cam wasn't particularly sharp in this game. It's not all on him, obviously. This team is atrocious, and there are a few times you saw Cam Ward try to make a play or do something, and on the 4th down, Tony Pollard, I mean, yeah, is that pass a little off of his frame? Sure. Should your guy catch the ball? 100% Tony Pollard has to catch that ball. Tony Pollard fumbles on the last drive of this game. Just a terrible effort by everyone. It's like they took last week's game against Seattle and said, hey, we're getting better, so let's just not even, we'll just pretend like we're a good team now, and then we'll come out with this lackadaisical lack of focus, and I don't know. It's like they were riding high off of last week, and they didn't even win last week. And the whole week of press conferences, Mike McCoy smiling at the podium after last Sunday's loss as if they had just won the game. It almost felt like they treated it like they were better than they are, and they didn't have to plan or try as hard throughout the week. I don't know. That's just what it looked like, because how do you go from playing as well as they did last week, again, despite the loss, to playing this week like this looked like a Brian Callahan version of the Titans. You know, they are okay on their opening drive with the scripted plays and then just completely fall apart in this game. No one showed up to play. Weak-minded team, says James Henderson. And look, that has to do with coaching. And again, nobody played well today, and I'm not excusing Cam's performance. I don't think it was his worst game of the year, but it certainly wasn't close to his best, and it was a huge step back from what we saw last week. But the coach has got to get these guys ready to play on a weekly basis. That's why you hear people talk so much about how you need a leader of men, someone who's going to motivate and get them up for this. And yeah, they're professional athletes. They should always be up to play. Of course they should, but that's not the reality of a long season. You need somebody that's going to keep their head in the game. And clearly yes, thank you very much, Space Ghost Biz. Clearly they were thrilled with having that moral victory. They didn't even try this week. Beardzerk 10 says, no slot passes that I can remember. Players are never put in position to succeed. Look, I want to talk a little about the passing game in this one because it was it was hard to watch. It was like everything was underneath, short, check down. It's almost like they've maybe been drilling this idea into Ward's head that he doesn't always need to take the aggressive shot and that he can just check it down, get it to his playmakers, and pick up yards. And yet, this is too far. This is taking that way too far, that approach. Like, you still have to threaten down the field. Again, he averaged 3.7 yards per attempt. I'd love to know what his average depth of target was in this game. I can't wait to get my hands on the all-22 because there were so many times it felt like Cam was just in the pocket, and you have to get rid of the ball. I don't care if anyone's open or not. You try to throw somebody open or you throw it away. If nobody's getting open after 2.5 seconds, you got to get rid of the ball or you got to get out of the pocket. And I felt like he just wasn't sharp today. So that's really frustrating. And I do think like maybe he's being overcoached to be so conservative because it's been 3 weeks in a row really where there haven't been a ton of downfield shots. And the last one I can remember was that miss to Iamaner, and that was like 3 weeks ago now. So I got to shout out Zach McLean 1 here with a huge tip, $9.99, a super chat here. Thank you so much, Zach, for this donation. We really appreciate that. Justin and I both do. But here's the comment. We'll need to watch the all-22, but seemed like no one opened downfield. Cam didn't play like a superstar today, and it revealed how awful our roster is. McCoy doing his job, which is to tank. Totally agree. Exactly what I was just saying. Either there is absolutely nobody open down the field for an entire game, which seems unlikely, or Ward is just being a little bit too hesitant, a little too afraid to not make a mistake. But when you're trailing by multiple scores, which the Titans were in this game, you got to cut it loose and just hope that somebody makes a play down the field or that you draw a penalty in a game where the refs were very willing to throw those flags quickly. A ton of terrible calls in this game. I don't want to get into the officiating too much, but the roughing the passer against Arden Key was not a penalty. Pushing the quarterback after he lets go of the ball, that happens like 12 times in every single game. And then the roughing the punter on Mike Brown where he's like on the ground and just happens to slide into the punter's foot with his fingertip and the punter flops for a penalty. Those were horrible calls. The fact that Mike Brown was ejected and nobody on Jacksonville was ejected doesn't make any sense, but the refs did not influence a 25-3 loss. This was pretty much all on the Titans, just being absolutely terrible. But thank you, Zach, for the super chat. We appreciate that. We'll read any super chats that come in within reason, obviously, as long as they're not insensitive or offensive. Yeah, I can't touch Trevor Princess. I hated these refs. I hated the refs too, and it's frustrating to watch that kind of game, but at the end of the day, it didn't really affect the outcome that much. McCoy knows his role. He was paid handsomely to secure the number 1 overall pick. Simple. Look, this is a funny joke to make, but if you honestly believe that Mike McCoy is coaching to lose games, he's not. He's definitely not. None of these guys are trying to lose. They're just so bad that they can't even be competitive when they're trying to be competitive. So this game breaks the streak of Titans covering the spread, which had been a 3-game streak of where they actually covered the spread. This one they did not even come close to covering. Commentators consistently talking about how hesitant Cam looked. I agree. He looked hesitant, and he was off target on a number of throws in this game. Not a huge number. It wasn't like he couldn't complete anything. He completed a ton of stuff. Sure. I mean, his completion percentage 24 of 38. I got to do some quick math, but 24 of 38 is not that bad. It's 63%. I mean, you'll take 63% completion, especially from where he was early in the season, but everything's short. Pollard dropping that one on 4th down, the one to Gunnar Helm down the field, was that in down the field that he was out of bounds, was a great throw and catch that could have set them up for a touchdown. Was that in the end zone? I can't even remember actually. But yeah, those kinds of plays hurt. My issue with this offense, I've been saying it all year, is Cam misses a wide open, I can't even remember, Iamaner on a 3rd and long, and then on 4th down throws it to Iamaner on the next play and he drops it. He misses that 3rd and long, and we're all like, oh, come on, Cam, you got to hit that pass. And yes, he has got to hit that pass. There's no excuse for missing that pass. But at the same time, like I watch football all day Sunday. I cover multiple games for the other show I work for, Heed the Call, my main full-time job. And the quarterbacks miss throws all the time, okay? Bryce Young missed a ton of throws today. He beat the Rams. Why? Because he doesn't have an incompetent team around him where when that one play is missed, It's glaring. It's all we're going to talk about because it was a big miss for a big potential opportunity. But you can miss. Quarterbacks will miss throws. That's part of football. You're not going to be perfect for a whole game. But when your margin for error is so slim, they stand out more than they should. And it makes it look, I mean, I'm not going to say Cam had a good game. He obviously did not have a good game. He's got to do more. But the number of times that they're in a 3rd and 10 plus, and Ward gets a 10-yard completion that if you're not behind the sticks, it's a first down. But because you're behind the sticks, now it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3, 4th and 1, and your coach punts it every single time. You're never gonna get the offense moving. So yeah, Ward's got to do better. It was a step back from last week because last week I thought was the first game he really put the team on his back and carried them forward, created plays out of structure and in structure, getting first downs when the play is not there, when the defense has won the initial part of the rep. He did not do that this week. He did not carry the offense. He did not elevate the team around him. He did not overcome the horrid situation he's in. He looked like a rookie quarterback in this game who made some mistakes. And that's how progression is. Progression is not linear. You're not just always going to be one notch better than you were the previous week. There's ups, there's downs, there's ups, there's downs. You hope that the overall trend line is up, but there's going to be setbacks along the way. And today there were setbacks. So it wasn't his best game. It wasn't his worst game, but nobody around him is stepping up to make a play. Ian Manor has been a letdown since week 3, to be frank. He has been. I mean, he has been. Look, all these guys who are rookies and even not rookies are being pushed up a peg in their role above what their role should be because there's simply no talent on this roster. So Ian Manor has had to play a wide receiver 2 or 3 role all season long. This guy is a wide receiver 4 in the NFL. And look, maybe he gets better. He's just a rookie. You never know how these guys' careers are going to pan out. But I just don't see a true difference-making player in Ian Manor. And so it's going to be a disappointment because you got your hopes up that first month of the season, hoping that this guy could solve some problems on this roster. And that raises your expectations for what he is and what he can be. And now we're being disappointed because we had elevated expectations. That's simply the reality is he's like a wide receiver 4. He is like a Nick Westbrook-Akina. He's going to be a solid guy who's in the right place. He's not always going to come down with the ball. He's going to drop too many passes, and he's not going to make any big game-breaking plays. So what is that really? That's a wide receiver 4 in the NFL. He's going to have to learn to play special teams too if he wants to, have a long-time role on this roster. But the Titans need playmakers. I can't remember the last time this season. Has it happened this season? Correct me if this has happened this season. That somebody made a play for their quarterback on a pass that was maybe not really on target or up into double coverage or catch a short pass and run 50 yards. Like, has there been a single time that somebody has stepped up and said, I got you. It doesn't have to be all on you, rookie quarterback. I can help make a play too. I can't think of a time. Like any of the times that it's happened, it's also been partly Ward making a good throw. So I can't think of that. If that has happened, let me know. MCA curse on Harris and Winston Jr. this week. I didn't think Harris was bad. The one completion on the crossing route he gave up to Brian Thomas Jr. was Winston's fault. Kevin Winston was bad. Kevin Winston had a sack, a good pass rush. He had another good pressure on a pass rush. He was pretty good in the run game, but he had 3 huge mistakes in coverage. One of them was on the crossing route to Brian Thomas Jr., and the other 2 were touchdowns. Brenton Strange wide open because he carried the wrong player, took the corner route when somebody, the safety, or the corner, somebody out there already had the safety. He didn't take the middle field where Brenton Strange was running, and then on that short touchdown, that was him covering Myers as well. Just got beat in one-on-one coverage on that one. So yeah, Winston, not great this week. Wide receivers that I'm looking at in the upcoming draft. I mean, Cardinal Tate's my favorite, but to be fully frank with you guys, I haven't really watched these receivers yet. I haven't really watched Jordan Tyson, who is apparently very good. I haven't watched Mekhi Lemon, who's apparently, very good. And both of those guys fit the bill of what the Titans need. Jordan Tyson, huge catch radius, makes incredible grabs, big-bodied frame receiver. Cam, look, this is sort of where I'm at with Cam Ward. He might need a guy with a big catch radius because as much as he makes plays out of structure and can make incredible throws with his arm talent, he also isn't always the most accurate when it comes to ball placement, putting it on the frame, Occasionally he is, and occasionally he isn't. Having a guy like Jordan Tyson who can make acrobatic away from his frame catches, that might be the type of receiver that Cam Ward needs to find his, to excel at his highest level. And then Mekhi Lemon, the Titans need somebody who can take a 10-yard screen and turn it into a 60-yard touchdown. They don't have anybody like that. They don't have anybody that can turn a routine 5-yard catch into a 35-yard explosive. And that's the kind of player I think Mekhi Lemon is. Again, I haven't really watched these guys very much except for just watching college football on Saturdays. So I'll get back to you. I mean, we have months until the draft. I'd like to be prepared when January comes around by having watched some of these guys a little bit, even though we still will have 3 months at that point. But yeah, I haven't really watched all of them yet, so I'm not 100% sure. Time to get serious about moving Latham to guard. Yeah, I think the Titans have a J.C. Latham problem. I really do. I mean, he is just getting worked on a weekly basis. And remember, this was a Bill Callahan pick. Bill Callahan said Latham was his favorite offensive lineman in that draft, that he would have taken him over Joe Alt. Is that just something you say after Joe Alt's off the board and you don't even have a chance to pick him? So you're like, oh, we're really happy with the guy we got, actually. We would have taken him over the guy that went ahead of him. Yeah. I mean, are they just saying that? Or is that really how they feel? Regardless, the Titans might have to look at a right tackle replacement. I mean, I don't want to go get that far ahead of ourselves yet because they're going to bring in a whole new offensive coaching staff, and maybe the next staff can get more out of him or at least help him more. But his anchor looks terrible. He's getting worked around the edge. Like, he just doesn't look good. He makes too many. And this is the problem. I mean, this is this challenge, I guess, of playing offensive line is if you have 50 offensive snaps and you are perfect on 46 of them, but you're terrible on the other 4, you're terrible. You have to be more consistent than that. You have to be good on 49 out of 50. And you would ideally like your team to have more than 50 offensive snaps in a game, closer to 60, 62, 63. But the Titans only run 55 plays in this game at an average of 3.4 yards per play. So that's not going to get the job done at all. Xavier Restrepo finding space is the only thing I can think of. Not super huge, but it's something. Yeah, in terms of a player making a play for Cam Ward. And funny that it's the undrafted free agent that they refused to play for most of the season. Do we have a play for a touchdown that is longer than 20 yards this whole season? We have no explosiveness at all. Yes, Shimere Dike has a 38-yard touchdown. That is the only touchdown the Titans have scored outside the red zone this season. It's the only touchdown the Titans have scored that wasn't caught in the end zone as far as passing touchdowns go, and it was caught at like the 2 or 3 yard line. That's what I'm saying. The Titans don't have anybody on offense where they can just throw it short to, or even throw it and they catch it at the 12-yard line and they take it into the end zone for a touchdown. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen with this group of playmakers that Cam Ward's working with. It's horrible. Titans have to go wide receiver in the first round. Yeah, I didn't even mention Carnell Tate. Look, I haven't studied these guys. I really like Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate also can make acrobatic away from his frame catches. He makes plays for his quarterback. He comes back to underthrown deep balls. He is a true difference maker at wide receiver. Now, I don't know if that means he's a true wide receiver 1 caliber player in the NFL. He might max out at a wide receiver 2, but I also think he's an incredibly safe pick to make in the first round at a position that can be pretty volatile in the draft. So I'm all in on Carnell Tate. I don't know how high he goes. I think it's imperative at this point that the Titans get the number 1 pick, which I was worried they might play their way out of after last week's game. But after this one, I'm back to thinking that they are going to lock up that number 1 pick and trade out of it and get as many first-round picks as you can for this year or next and add as many playmakers to this offense as you can. I'm terrified that they're going to go defense, which, of course, they need a defensive end. They need a true game-breaking edge rusher as well. They need so much, though, that can you put that one off for a year so that your young quarterback has a season to develop in a much better environment? That's what I would prefer they do. Just go all offense. Hell, they might need a right tackle. But again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Let me get back to the comments here. Saddest thing is there's still 5 games to go. Just want it to be over. Yeah, and the thing is, it's a long season and our memories are short, and we're coming off the Seahawks game where everyone was flying high, and, I was, floating last Sunday night just thinking about the step that Ward had taken in that game last week. And then coming off this game, it's going to be the opposite feeling. We're all going to feel sad and dejected, hopeless about the future of this team because they played so poorly in this game. The defense wasn't terrible, but the game gets away from you so fast when you fumble the kickoff return on what was going to be your second possession. The Titans touched the ball once in the first quarter, and they drove it all the way down the field for a short field goal. Like, they were playing decently well, but I guess all momentum was sapped from this team when DK fumbled that kickoff return. And DK, that's the second time he's done that. I don't want to get on him because he also had a really nice punt return in this game that set the offense up at the 30-yard line. Of course, they did nothing with that opportunity because the offense is terrible. Olu Fashanu was a better college player, a better athlete, and was on the board, and he played left tackle. Latham was such a dumb reach even at the time. Melo and I were pretty big on Fashanu. We did a whole breakdown video on him. We liked him a lot. I mean, we like J.C. Latham too, but obviously he has his deficiencies. Maybe J.C. Latham is your right guard next year, and maybe Jackson Slater's your center next year, and maybe that's the way this thing goes, and you go get a new right tackle. That would be a bummer if they have to find another tackle. Just the resources you have to spend to get good offensive line play, if they have to go replace their right tackle again, would be such a bummer. And that's the biggest reason that I'm hesitant to just be out on J.C. Latham, because if it was like you can go shopping and get whatever you want for whatever you want, obviously I would say right tackle upgrade would be a nice thing to add to this team. But I don't want to give up on Latham because of what they've invested in him and what it would take to replace him in terms of other capital investments, whether it's draft picks or money or whatever. Or like, I just don't want to go there because it's so depressing to even think about. So let's just see how the last 5 games go for J.C. Latham and see what the next offensive staff can do. Get this coach out of here now. I agree. The coach is terrible. Just awful. I mean, so cowardly. I did say, if you missed our stream 2 weeks ago, I did say we would not be talking about how frustrating and annoying it is that Mike McCoy will not go for it on 4th down until the game is so far out of hand that it doesn't matter anymore. And I don't want to talk about it because Mike McCoy is not part of the future of this team. It sucks in the now. It's frustrating to watch, but it is what it is. That's how he's going to do it. That's just part of his DNA. He's a conservative coward. He's going to punt the ball. So I'm over it. I hate it. It's awful to watch. Give them a chance, but it is what it is. So I'm not going to talk about it. Tate runs a 4.7. He's hella slow. I don't know. I mean, I saw 4.6 to 4.7. He might be slow, but I also think he's a lot like George Pickens. He's like slow George Pickens. Obviously, George Pickens is faster, but he's got about the same frame. He's tall. He's like 6'2", 6'3", about 200 pounds, maybe a little under 200 pounds. But his catch radius is insane. His ability to make incredible catches. The Titans don't have anybody who can actually just go make an incredible catch. And I think Carnell Tate can do that. He's going to be a guy that runs really good routes. He's in the right place. He's smart. He's like aware on 3rd and 5 where the line to gain is. Like, I really like Carnell Tate. But again, I haven't watched all these guys. And if they do draft Carnell Tate, I mean, you got a guy like Shim DK who's super explosive. They have that element of their offense. They could probably use a faster guy too. I understand. I'm out on both of these running backs too. Cut Pollard and trade Spears for a ham Sammy in the offseason. Yeah, I mean, look, I've said it earlier this week. I'm all in on Jeremiah Love. If the Titans have, a draft pick in the appropriate range to draft Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame, I think he's the kind of guy that can really reshape the entire identity of your offense and take so much pressure off of Cam Ward. He's also good in the receiving game. He made a one-handed catch earlier this year down the field on a wheel route, which we know Cam Ward likes to throw. I'm all in on Jeremiah Love. I think he makes your blocking better, he makes your passing game better, and he makes your entire offense more explosive. He can break a game open. Shador touchdown was wide open. We never scheme anybody open. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This whole game, it felt like every pass that Ward threw, even when he was checking it down short, was to a covered guy. They were all contested catches. A 4-yard pass over the middle to Gunnar Helm, he's like ripping it away from a defender. Van Jefferson, a 6-yard pass over the middle. He's ripping it away from defenders. It's like, can we get anybody open? Is there any schematic advantage that anybody on the offensive staff provides in terms of helping this team full of young players create anything down the field? It's ridiculous. The Jets beat the Falcons. Thank you, Ironbird135. That's awesome. That is huge because that gives the Titans a little bit of breathing room if they do manage to find a way to win another game. The Jets play the Saints the week before the Titans play the Saints. We need the Saints to win that game so that they both end up at 3 wins. The Raiders play the Giants later this year. One of those two teams going to end up with 3 wins. Can the Raiders get a 3rd win somewhere else now that they fired Chip Kelly and maybe that sparks their offense in some way so that the Raiders, Jets, Giants, and Saints all end up with 3 wins? That would be ideal because it gives the Titans a little bit of breathing room, because the problem is the Titans' strength of schedule is so difficult, which doesn't make any sense to me, how you can have the worst team in the league and be playing a fourth place schedule and end up with the hardest schedule in football is crazy. But because of that, they lose any tiebreaker for draft position. If they and another team, they didn't play head-to-head, or multiple teams are tied, strength of schedule is the tiebreaker, and the easier your strength of schedule, the higher you'll pick. So the Titans, if they were to get to 2 wins right now with the current landscape, would drop to like the 5th pick, which is crazy. But that's how it works, and it's really annoying. Did I say 3 win? 2 win. If they were all at 2, I don't remember what I just said. Sorry, guys. Podcasting alone, it's kind of hard. I miss Justin Melo. Hope he's doing well today. He didn't have to sit through this miserable slog of a game. I think they should re-sign Jihad Ward because he provides that stopgap that allows you to push the edge position maybe down the line a year. But yeah, that's who was on the ground. Sorry, I missed your earlier comment. I'm a little behind on the comments. Let me scroll back to the bottom. Did Kyer Elam even play? I don't know. Good question. I'll have to check that on the All-22 when I review it this week. Mock drafts are going to go crazy when we need wide receiver, running back, offensive tackle, edge, and cornerback desperately. So this is maybe the bright side of having so many needs. There's not one glaring need. The Titans need all the premier positions besides quarterback. That would be edge, I guess right tackle, wide receiver, cornerback. They could massively use an upgrade at running back. You can take the best player available. Literally, whoever the best player on the board is, add a blue chip player to your team. It doesn't matter what position they play, because you need somebody at just about every position. You don't have to reach for a guy at a certain position, because you really just need to add talent wherever you can add talent. So that's maybe the bright side of having so many needs. And yes, the Titans were officially eliminated from the playoffs today. Who cares? But yeah. DK was on the ground when he so-called fumbled. I don't think so. I think the ball was being jarred loose. He was on top of a Jaguars player. He wasn't on the ground. I think that was the right call to call that a fumble, which just kind of sucks. But Callahan designed such an awful scheme. Yeah, I agree. Ellett can't catch. I agree. I'm not able to watch right now, but please tell me you are not glazing Cam Ward today. He sucked. I hope to hear some criticism later on when I can actually watch later. This comes from Double Whopper Slobber Knocker. Interesting name there. I don't think I've been glazing Cam Ward. You guys can let me know in the chat. I definitely said he could be better, but the entire team could be better. And Cam's got to be a little bit better, but again, he's a rookie. He's going to have his ups and downs. I don't want to draw any conclusions from this game. Just like last week's game was so good, but then on Thursday's show, I said it's only one game. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. He looked like a franchise quarterback. He needs to stack those kind of games. He did not stack those kinds of games, okay? That doesn't mean the team should be coming out of this with 3 points. Like, I don't think Cam Ward played, you only score 3 points bad, but he also didn't play, you put up 20-plus points good. There's middle ground there where he needs to be a little better. He wasn't particularly sharp, but he also isn't the reason they lost 25-3. Like, let's call a spade, you know what I mean? Bring me Saleh or someone who brings life into this team. Look, I'm all in on Chris Shula. Oh, here we go. Who do you want for head coach? I'm all in on Chris Shula if they're going to take a chance on a first-time coordinator. Chris Shula is my pick. If they're going to take a chance on a retread, I like the idea of Robert Saleh. I like the idea of Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, I think, gives them a baseline to where, they're at least going to be a competitive, competently run team. They may never win a Super Bowl under Mike McCarthy. They may never win a playoff game under Mike McCarthy. I think it's going to be very similar to the Mike Mularkey years where he raises the floor of the team. He teaches them how to be professionals. He might go win a playoff game if he gets some lucky play. Marcus Mariota got pretty lucky in that Chiefs comeback win with the catching his own pass and all that. Let's not look back on that with rose-colored revisionist history tinted glasses. But that's the kind of coach I see Mike McCarthy being, which I'm in on. The Titans need just to have the floor raised at this point. And then if McCarthy stalls out after 3 or 4 or 5 years, you go get the guy who can take them over the top. Those are my top 3 candidates, I think, at least from the NFL ranks. I know there are others. Clint Kubiak, I've heard that he may, some teams question his ability to really lead a room, to really command a room, I should say, to interview particularly well during that process. So that'll be interesting to see how his candidacy shakes out across the league. Mike Kafka, I still like Mike Kafka. I think what Mike Kafka has done as the interim coach of the Giants is what I think every Titans fan wishes Mike McCoy had done in Tennessee, which is he got uber aggressive on fourth downs. He's making radical changes. He's benching their first round pick, Abdul Carter, for being late or sleeping in a meeting. He's firing Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator who was terrible. He's actually taken control and said, this may be a temporary situation for right now, but I'm going to put my stamp on this team for the end of this season. They've been competitive with Jameis Winston at quarterback. They should get Jackson Dart back. We'll see how he looks with the rookie quarterback, but I like that. That's what you wanted to see Mike McCoy do, and Mike McCoy has been mostly status quo. I'm Brian Callahan in a Mike McCoy mask the whole season. So and challenging that play that they didn't even win they did win the challenge on, to make it 4th and inches from the 4-yard line. What was Mike McCoy thinking? Because I won't ever go for it on 4th down. If we get them into a 4th and inches scenario, they'll probably kick the field goal and we'll get off the field. Well, you did get off the field 2 plays later when ETN runs it up the middle into the end zone. So good for you. Good challenge there, Mike McCoy. If I was a top coaching candidate, I'd go anywhere other than the Titans. Our roster sucks. That is true. The roster sucks, and that might make it less enticing to head coaching candidates. But at the same time, you have a quarterback who showed a lot of promise, flashed plenty, as much or more than Caleb Williams did last year. I won't go as far as to say as much as Drake May did last year, but I think about as much as Caleb Williams flashed, Cam Ward has flashed that amount. If Ben Johnson was a head coach of this team might have 5 wins by this point, even with the talent level they have, because I don't think Caleb Williams has played particularly well for Chicago this year. I don't think he had a particularly good game on Friday. He had one really nice pass to Cole Kmet rolling out to his left, but Ben Johnson just schemes stuff up so well, and their run game is so good. They had 250 rushing yards for the 3rd time this year. To the Titans' credit, at least they did run the ball effectively today. They didn't run it very many times, but Pollard 10 carries for 60 yards. You can't ask for much better than that from Tony Pollard. Don't fumble the ball at the end of the game and catch it on 4th down. That'd be nice. But I think the Titans' job is a little more enticing than you make this out to be. It's really a blank canvas. You can make this roster whatever you want. They're going to have the 1st overall pick most likely. They're going to have near top of the league in available cap space. And they have a GM that I trust to draft good players because most of his draft picks have been good. But everyone was bad in this game. Kevin Winston, like I said, was bad. So was everybody. Everybody was bad. Jim Dike might have been their best player today with the one big punt return he had, but even he fumbled a kickoff, so you can't really even say that. Speaking of Ben Johnson, I cannot believe we interviewed him in the same offseason we hired Callahan. Yeah, they also interviewed Mike McDonald that offseason, who would have been a way better choice. And that's why, I don't know, I like Chris Shula because he gives me Mike McDonald vibes, and I kind of think that he's going to have same level of success. He was awful Friday, missing touchdown passes, referring to Caleb Williams. Yes, he was. DK the best with one catch. The punt return is what I'm talking about. The one punt return that set them up with their best field position of the day. I think Titans are a prime opportunity for a head coach. Number 1 pick, plenty of cap space, a young promising quarterback. I agree. And you only get so many, there's only so many head coaching jobs available. I think what Robert Saleh brings is a potential ceiling and growth. I think he is truly a leader of men who can get guys to follow his vision and buy into what he wants them to be. I think his time with New York was tainted by the fact that they didn't even have really a quarterback option his first year. And then with Zach Wilson, come on. And then they bring in Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers dictates how the offense is run, what players they're bringing in. Aaron Rodgers ran that show. I think Saleh got a bit of a raw deal. And then Rodgers goes down on his 3rd snap of that 2nd season that Saleh was the head coach. So there wasn't a ton that he could do. They had one of the best defenses in the NFL at the time he was fired. And from the time that he was fired until 3 weeks ago, they have been the worst defense in the NFL. That shows the effect that he had when he was there. I'm in on that. I don't know about McDaniel. I don't know if McDaniel gets fired, honestly. I've heard a lot of stuff that the Dolphins want to give him a shot. Whoever the new GM is basically gets a free year if they keep Mike McDaniel. See if he can figure it out, and if they can't figure it out, then he gets to bring in his own guy. He doesn't get any blame for how his first year as a GM goes, whoever the Dolphins decide to hire. I would not be surprised if McDaniel retains that job, especially since the Dolphins have been on a bit of a winning streak lately. Let me keep going with the comments here. Just let it out. Let all your frustrations out. Quick shout out to Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville. You see it right here on my screen, Sinkers Beverages. Hell yeah, let's go. Head to Sinkers Beverages. Very knowledgeable staff will help you find anything you're looking for. They have an exclusive members-only club called the In Crowd. In Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. Check out Sinkers Beverages today. They're also on Uber Eats. SinkersBeverages.com. Back to the show here. I might want Nagy. He was decent in Chicago with a bad roster, and Trubisky. I know I'm in the minority on that. Yeah, I mean, Nagy obviously has connections to Mike Borgonzi. I don't want to take a chance on Matt Nagy. I mean, I guess he could have a similar trajectory as Robert Saleh, but that team got worse pretty much every year he was in Chicago. They were really good his first year, and they never got back to that. And the Chiefs' offense this year, if you go ask a Chiefs fan, they will tell you horror stories about Matt Nagy. Obviously the Chiefs are the Chiefs and they have Patrick Mahomes, but look at how they've played this year. I don't know. It's kind of the same boat as Joe Brady to me, where it's a month ago they were maybe in the running as some of the top options, but their teams have just not performed well enough for them to stay there, in my opinion. Unfortunately, I'm not blown away with the offensive candidates this cycle. Give me Shula or Saleh. I agree. Even Clint Kubiak scares me. For multiple reasons. And one of those, like I said, is I've heard that there are people who question his ability to command a room. Do you want another Brian Callahan? And I'm not saying that Kubiak and Callahan would be the same in any way, but I think that could be a trait they both share, where it's they don't really feel authentic leading a room of meathead football players. Kingsbury, I mean, similar story. I don't know. I think Cliff Kingsbury I think this is maybe a hot take. But this year, I think kind of proves it, what Washington has done this year. I think Kingsbury had a rookie quarterback that defenses didn't know how to game plan for, who could create with his legs whenever anything broke down within the structure of the play. And they had an unbelievable fourth down conversion percentage last year and an aggressive head coach in Dan Quinn, which, again, if you're going for it that often on fourth down and you're successful as often as they were, it's going to make your entire drive, your drives in a game, look better, because a drive that should have ended in a field goal or a punt, they're going for it, and Daniels is able to make stuff happen with his legs. It makes the whole offense look better. Now, I do like some aspects of his offense, but I think that he's hesitant to really change. I don't like the way he locks his receivers into one side of the field and one role. I like coordinators who take their best receiver and move them around the formation and create advantageous matchups the way Clint Kubiak does for Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm pretty scared of Cliff Kingsbury. I think there's a reason that his teams always got worse as the season went along in Arizona, and I think that you can do better than Kingsbury. So I don't really want Kingsbury. There's definitely not a Ben Johnson in this cycle, a leader of men as well as a skilled offensive mind. And let's be real, people questioned whether Ben Johnson could be a leader of men too, because he was the scientist who would lock himself in a closet for 12 hours and come up with incredible play designs. But people wondered, can he lead the room? Well, he's obviously proven he can. If you've seen the Bears social media tweeting his good, better, best locker room celebrations on a weekly basis, Ben Johnson can do it. But I agree, there isn't a guy like that. And I think you just need someone who's going to be adaptable, who can lead the room, who can motivate this team. I think that, to me, is like a Chris Shula or a Mike McCarthy. And then I also saw some Cowboys fan tweeted a video of Mike McCarthy from a Thanksgiving win when he was the coach, compared to a Brian Schottenheimer, locker room celebration, just how McCarthy was in the locker room and how Schottenheimer was in the locker room. And their tweet was thankful that Mike McCarthy's not our head coach anymore. That kind of concerns me and worries me a little bit. I don't know. Saleh might be the best hire. And this team has put it out there through their channels that they want a guy with either at least 5 years of play calling experience or a second-time head coach. Saleh fits both of those. So maybe he is their top candidate. I don't know. We will find out. If they sign Alec Pierce, does it still make sense to draft Tate? I think so, because Pierce adds that speed element. Somebody who can get down the field and take the top off the defense. Tate, well, he's been a downfield threat for Ohio State because of the 4.6, 4.7 potential speed that we'll find out in March, maybe if he runs the 40 even, isn't necessarily that guy. So they would bring you two different elements to your offense. And I think Pierce also has a pretty big catch radius. He's made some pretty incredible grabs. He also had, I don't know if he's the most well-rounded, versatile receiver. He's kind of a one-role guy, but he's a role the Titans don't currently have and that they could use. I just want a coach who can put the players in position to succeed on offense and defense. The D can never cover the middle, and the offense can't ever get out of its own way. Beard Zerk 10 with another comment. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's what is so frustrating about watching this team is like, did we see a single play action rollout for Cam Ward today? Maybe one. And I think we saw maybe one or two last week, and one of them was the touchdown when the game was basically over at the end of the game last week. Like, Cam Ward is at his best when he's on the move, out of structure, creating plays. Why can't you set up that kind of environment for him on a more frequent down-to-down basis where he is rolling out? I think he did have one rollout in this game, actually, and there were two backside defenders on him immediately, and he just had to throw the ball away, and it made it look like he threw it high out of bounds, but really, like, he turned around from a play-action fake and had two guys bearing down on him. It was a good decision to just get rid of the ball in that situation. But I agree, put these guys in a better position to succeed and to make plays, and I don't know. JTurn314 is 1,000% out on Mike McCarthy. His offenses are so stale and boring. He fired Kellen Moore after the offense actually started looking good in Dallas. That's possible. I mean, yeah. Saleh and Shula. Look, am I crazy for wanting defensive-minded head coach? I don't really care what side of the ball they come from. And Mike Herndon actually had a really good point a couple of weeks ago. He tweeted this, that yes, there is the downside of your OC potentially leaving every season or two if your offense is really, really good and you have a defensive-minded head coach, is that your offensive coordinator goes and gets a head coaching job somewhere. And the Titans went through that when they first hired Mike Vrabel, and they lost Matt LaFleur, and they lost Arthur Smith, and they ended up with Todd Downing and whoever else called plays, Tim Kelly. Like, it was a bad situation to be in. But they also got 3 fun years out of that. Well, I guess 2 fun years. Matt LaFleur wasn't even a good offensive coordinator in Tennessee, but Arthur Smith was. And they got a couple of 2 seasons really where the offense was explosive and fun. Like, based on what they've had over the last few years since then, I would take 2 years of a good OC and then he gets scooped up by somebody else because this team hasn't been even fun. But the point that Mike Herndon made was that if you do have a defensive-minded head coach, yes, you have to balance keeping your offensive coordinator, which I think is more of a threat than a reality. Like, the idea that your offensive coordinator is just going to leave every year or two. Like, first of all, you have to have a really good offense for that to be happening. So that's like a best case scenario, actually. And secondly, there's multiple candidates every year up for head coaching jobs, more than there are positions to fill. So you're not necessarily just going to be losing that guy every year. He may be in talks, he may be interviewing, but you're not always just going to lose him. But, sorry, keep getting sidetracked. The thing that Mike Herndon pointed out is that if your head coach is defensive-minded, your offensive coordinator can focus 100% of their attention on the offense and into that rookie quarterback. They don't have to be wearing a million hats and overseeing special teams and defensive game plans and all this other stuff. They can just keep their mind into the offense. And I think that is a big plus. Even if that guy gets scooped away in a year or two, at least you had somebody doing that for your rookie quarterback. I'd love Saleh, says J-Turn. He's my number one, and it isn't close. Cam Ward is a better player than Zach Wilson. Absolutely he is. I think he's already shown that. What makes you think Saleh would have a completely different result to his Jets tenure? Well, maybe Yangsty King, you joined late, but I talked about some of the challenges that Saleh went through when they signed Aaron Rodgers, which probably wasn't his decision. That's a GM and a Woody Johnson decision. And then Rodgers comes in and brings all of his own people in, and you're running the offense that Rodgers wants to run because he's a veteran quarterback who's getting things done his way already. You see by the players that they brought in. I don't think the same thing's happening in Pittsburgh this year. He obviously has input, but he was basically running the show in New York. And you got Woody Johnson's son using Madden ratings to decide what players they're bringing in under Saleh's tenure. So Saleh dealt with a lot there, and his defenses were really, really good. He brought a schematic advantage to that team. So I think things could be different, and there's also data that shows that on average, a head coach's winning percentage goes up in their second stop, if they get to a second stop, than it was in their first. Like, overall, the higher percentage head coach, win percentage for a head coach is a second-time head coach. They have higher win percentages than a first-time head coach on average. So I think that he could have learned some stuff, not be hamstrung by Aaron Rodgers, who then gets injured on the third play of the season, and maybe he could have had a better result and could have a better result in Tennessee, but we'll see. DeAndre Ray says, I hate watching this team. Makes my Mondays terrible. Look, there was a point in today's game where if I didn't have to do this podcast and if I didn't have to do Heed the Call, if I worked as a salesman for if I wasn't working in football, which I know I'm blessed to be working in football, I'm not complaining about it. But if I wasn't working in football, I would have turned the game off today. I would not have watched the whole game. And kudos to anyone who is a diehard enough fan to watch that entire game. What about the Packers DC? The Packers DC, Jeff Hafley was the head coach at Boston College, hired by Matt LaFleur at the beginning of last season, or in the offseason 2 years ago, I guess. This is his second season there. An interesting one. You know, he took Boston College and made them a real program again, which they had been previously, but had been through a lull. He's definitely an interesting option. I'm not going to rule him out. I hope the Titans cast a wide net and interview as many of these guys as they possibly can. Saleh versus Cohen twice a year, I'd take it. Yeah, that's a great point. We saw the Saleh-Cohen beef earlier this year. That'd be a pretty fun little storyline, subplot to a 2 times a year matchup. I'm in for that. Brian Flores and Arthur Smith. I don't know who would be the head coach, but I like this duo. Yeah, I've heard some tough stuff about Brian Flores too, that it wasn't just him and Tua who didn't get along in Miami, that all of his players were kind of rubbed the wrong way by how he led that Miami Dolphins team. But maybe he learned something from that. He's been watching Kevin O'Connell be a head coach for multiple seasons now. His Vikings players seem to love him. So maybe Brian Flores, but I do wonder for a team like the Titans, who do seem to want to keep the league happy with some of the decisions they make, if they would hire a guy who is currently engaged in a lawsuit against the league. And then Arthur Smith, I don't know if you guys saw the chart I was tweeting around last week that shows your offense's potential EPA, basically a measure of how much potential your offense is generating from the scheme, from the separation that receivers are getting, from the blocking that the offensive line is providing. The Steelers were one of 2 teams worse than the Titans in that metric. So I don't know if I love the idea of Arthur Smith coming back as the head coach. I do think his Atlanta Falcons teams overachieved compared to the talent level they had, and the fact that his quarterback was Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder. It's not like he had a ton to work with there. But I also I don't know. There's something about him that scares me as the head coach. They may have overachieved, but that doesn't mean that they were ever going to win a Super Bowl under Arthur Smith. And I think it could swing bigger. Beardzerker turned the game off after the Pollard fumble. The only thing you missed was Trevor Lawrence kneeling it 3 times. So good for you. If Tomlin gets out of Pitt, I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think with the Ravens losing, that there is Ravens losing on Thanksgiving, that there is a bit better than ever chance of John Harbaugh not returning to the Baltimore Ravens, where they kind of say we both just need a fresh start, and they mutually agree to part ways, kind of like when Bill Belichick was fired, not really fired, but he was really fired from New England. John Harbaugh would be an awesome one. And there's a lot of Ravens fans who would get frustrated with John Harbaugh. He makes conservative decisions. His late game defense allows a lot of completions. And there are reasons that you might get frustrated, but I would take what he's built in Baltimore over what we've watched in Tennessee. And he has won a Super Bowl, by the way. Harbaugh would be an instant yes. I totally agree. I also would love Tomlin. I mean, these are guys that their fan bases are frustrated with them because they've seen them coach for so long and they're predictable with some of the late game conservative decisions and stuff like that. But ultimately, their ability to build a program that just has a culture and players come in and they're immediately indoctrinated in it, and players who go to Baltimore and Pittsburgh get better than they were at their previous stop. George Pickens, breaking out in Dallas notwithstanding. So I agree. I think those guys are the type of leader that the Titans really need. I'm going to wrap this up soon. It's been 47 minutes, but I appreciate all you guys tuning in, hanging out with me, giving me these chats to react to, because I didn't have a ton to talk about after this miserable game, so I appreciate you guys. Jay Turn again says, I don't think we beat the Browns. Myles Garrett alone could shut down this offense, but I am semi-worried about the Saints. I agree 100%. But I also think the Saints are kind of a you never know what you're going to get kind of team. Not the same level as the Panthers, but they made that game in Miami today competitive. I thought they had a chance to win it, especially after they recovered an onside kick. They didn't win, though, did they? Right? I had to get on here. No, they ended up losing by 4 points. But they played Miami pretty good. They might play Tennessee pretty good. I do think it's obvious, but if there's one game on the schedule you're looking at and saying the Titans might win this one, it's New Orleans. So, yeah, that is something to consider. You'd hope the Saints can beat the Jets maybe, since the Jets got a third win today. The Saints beat the Jets, that gives them a third win, and that gives the Titans some wiggle room to get a second win over the Saints and still maintain the top of the draft position. But if that happens, you still need the Giants and the Raiders to get another win. They play each other late in the season. One of them's getting to 3 wins. Can the other one pick up a third win somewhere else between now and the end of the season? We usually enter week 18 where it's like all this team has to do to secure the number 1 pick is lose this game, and then they go win that game, right? We saw it happen last year, saw it happen the year the Texans drafted Stroud. Like, it happens all the time. Maybe something crazy like that happens again this year, and the whole draft order gets shaken up in week 18. Justified Takes. Just wanted to say I found MCA about 2 or 3 months ago, and I've been a big fan. Keep up the great work, guys. Appreciate that. Appreciate you coming, finding us and then sticking with us. Justin Melo and I will be back tomorrow. Sorry he couldn't join us today, but I don't think he missed a whole lot. We got to do a nice little therapy session here as a group, and I had fun. So I think I'm gonna cut it off there. If anyone has any last comments they wanna get out before I end this thing, it's been again almost about 50 minutes now. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. Look, this sucks. The Titans suck. The team sucks. Appreciate you, Beard Zerk. MCA is the best Titan-centric pod out there. And this season sucks, but I do think the future is brighter than it feels today. Titans are going to get a better staff in here. They're going to have a really good draft position, even if they don't secure number 1. Hopefully they do secure number 1, and hopefully they trade it for a boatload of picks, and hopefully they can retool this thing and just be a frisky competitive team next year. Nobody's expecting them to go win the division in 2026, but can they just hang in these games, have a fun offense with a young, fun quarterback, and just be competitive? Because right now, in this game, in multiple games this season, they haven't even looked like they belong in the same league as some of these teams they've been playing against. Thank you, Iron Grids. Great stream from the gravy train on a terrible Sunday. Looking forward to Mellow Yellow being back. Thank you for hanging out, Petulant Puffbird. We appreciate all you guys. All right, that's going to do it. I'm going to wrap this up. Until tomorrow, check out sinkersbeverages.com. Drown your sorrows there. Drink responsibly. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, hang out a few minutes after this. I'm going to hit end stream, right? There's an outro video that plays for about 15 seconds, and then it's over. Hang on, wait for that to finish, and drop a comment on the video so that this thing gets to every Titans fan out there, and everyone wants to click on it. A couple last comments came in. Brosmer just did an exact replication of the Levis flip to the Bears. Oof, gross. Thanks, Graver. Appreciate all your hard work. Let's hope for some fun, entertaining games in the future. 100%. That's all I want. Last week was it. We got a fun offense, but a team that couldn't overcome just being worse than their opponent. That's what we want to see the rest of the year, right? Can we just get the offense to look competent? It was so bad today, and so many penalties. 10 penalties for 86 yards. The Jags, 13 penalties for 98 yards. Refs, just holster the flag. You even had the announcers talking about it. They've hit their quota, they said. Yes, the Vikings QB apparently just pulled a Will Levis, undrafted free agent Max Brosmer. Nutcracker, listening to you here because they don't really let you talk on HTC. Yeah, I talk plenty on HTC. That pod doesn't need extra monologues, okay? It's long enough already. The Kiffin drama was more entertaining than this game. I agree. The most fun thing that happened in this game was the fight after that punt. That's the most exciting thing. They will probably release Tony Pollard, but not until January, February, or early March. I don't think that it'll happen now, but I understand why you'd be frustrated with him. All right, that's it. That's actually going to do it for us. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you guys. We will be back tomorrow. Until then, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.